Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I do know this, had an underwhelming second half of the season after starting out roughly 6-2. Like I said, I'm going off the dome here, so I'm not going to be exact there, but had a great start to the season. Emeka Egbuka looked like a front runner for Offensive Rookie of the Year, and then they kind of have a collapse on the back half of the season with injuries to Mike Evans. Chris Godwin tries to come back, and that does not work out. He's not able to get back at 100% in time to kind of save the functionality of that offense. Baker Mayfield did carry it for a week or two with the likes of Tez Johnson, but in the end, it ends up falling apart. That being said, before we talk about the 2026 offseason, let's talk about team MVP. Mine is Baker Mayfield. It's been a tough time for him, and I'll talk about him more in a little bit. But he's had 8 offensive coordinators in his 8 seasons in the NFL, and I think maybe it's easy to kind of use that excuse, and I think that's a valid excuse for why the offense wasn't necessarily clicking for the entirety of this season, just because he's still continuing to figure it out. Now, you can get nitpicky and say, well, it worked at the beginning. I just think that it's not entirely Baker Mayfield's fault, and the way he was able to overcome some of the early injury issues with games with Tez Johnson was really impressive to me. He was a great quarterback and an MVP front runner. I don't know if he ever became the favorite, but I think he was up to the second in the betting odds around week 6.
And I mean, I think right there is why the offense fell off. I mean, part of it is due to the injuries, but there were injuries for most of the season, and he overcame it with MVP level play. But realistically, y'all can disagree, I guess, but Baker's not an MVP level QB. And so, like, asking him to do that for a full season, you're just probably not getting that. Like, he was always going to regress at some point. People talked about, he's putting the ball in harm's way, and he got away with a lot in terms of the interception front on the earlier part of the season. That regressed. Like, just asking anyone to be a hero for 17 weeks probably isn't going to pan out.
Yeah, I think there's a difference, though, between being a hero and I think he could put together MVP-level play. But I think that he was doing not more than that. He was just doing like the elite of the elite. He was doing it with bad weapons.
Yeah, but he was kind of an MVP front runner because of his heroics, is what I'm like. Because of the big plays he was making at the end of games, because of the game-winning drives he constantly had. Like, that was what was building his MVP case. That's what was giving him the numbers.
Did he have 4 game-winning drives in their first 5 games, and then the one they lost to the Eagles? Is that right?
Yes, it was a substantial amount. I kind of disagree, though.
I think he's great.
You think he could win MVP?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Last year he threw for 4,500 yards and 41 touchdowns. He led the league in interceptions, though, with 16.
Yeah.
Make that as out of what you want. I think health has been a huge problem for Tampa Bay back-to-back years. At the end of last year, of course, the injuries kind of subsided, and he just didn't have the year that Lamar or Josh Allen had. But I do think the dude can win the MVP. He may be too old at this point. I think the way he played the last 2 years would have been easier. Last year, he finished 11th in MVP with those stats that he had, 4,500 yards, 41 touchdowns. But I do think the way he played this year, like, the dude was making, like, MVP-level plays every single week. Incredible throws every single week. Game-winning drives every single week. He had 4 of them
until
this
he
year.
wasn't.
Until the team kind of fully tore apart and the offensive line finally was too much for him to overcome.
Yeah.
Losing those offensive linemen so early.
Yeah.
So I do think he's got that in his bag.
So that's my MVP for the season. I think JP sounds like you would agree. And I think Jack maybe...
he's my MVP
yeah,
for the season.
You would also agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just don't know that he has NFL MVP play in him. We'll see. We can talk about that more as we talk about next season. My unsung MVP or whatever, is that what we've been called? Unsung?
Unsung.
Is Jacob
Under the
Parrish. Third round pick in 2025, so he just finished his rookie year. Started 5 games for the Bucs this season and finished second on the team in interceptions. And I think the reason I really wanted to give him the shout is because that secondary is kind of aging, especially with Jamel Dean and Antoine Winfield back there. I believe they're both in their early 30s. I think it's huge for the Bucs to have potentially hit on a guy, somebody who started, like I said, 5 games in the third round, a young guy who can hopefully maybe you get another year or 2 out of those 2 guys, Winfield and Dean, and then you kind of pass the reins off, and maybe Jacob Parrish can be, if not your lockdown corner on one side, he's your really good wide cornerback 2 on the other side. So I think that's why I wanted to give him the shout, just because it's so important, and I'll talk about this a lot more in the Bucks for the rest of their primer, is continuing to kind of find guys, young guys, to replace all the older talent they have.
I like that shout. I really do. For him to play the way he did at just 21 years old, too, it's a statement. Of course, rookie season, so he's young anyway, but very young. I like that shot personally.
Jack, I'm good with it. I mean, yeah.
I really wanted to do Vita Vea. I just wanted to talk about him just because he's such a dog, and it is crazy
Sure.
how well he plays and how different he is from every other defensive tackle in the NFL. But he wasn't the MVP, and he's not unknown or unsung. So I guess I did talk about him, but he doesn't get a title. As far as coaching goes, Todd Bowles is back for another year. This will be year 5 for him. And then they bring in Zach Robinson, replacing Josh Grizzard after they fired him. And I'm really excited to see this matchup or this combination because of Robinson's experience with Mayfield. And I'm about to talk about Baker Mayfield a little bit more. Robinson was the quarterback coach, I believe, or the passing game coordinator at Los Angeles when Baker had his historic 2 days of preparation and come and lead that come from behind win. I watched the last 15 minutes of that game earlier today just because I feel like it's probably Baker Mayfield, in my opinion, his biggest achievement, because that's just ridiculous to me. And he's had a lot of achievements.
Biggest NFL achievement?
Yes, thank you. His
Okay.
biggest NFL achievement. His biggest achievement in the NFL, the thing that stands out to me the most. Drafted first overall in 2018, ended the Browns' 19-game losing streak, broke the record for most passing touchdowns by a rookie, led the Browns to their first playoff berth since 2002, and then in 2021 plays with that partially torn labrum. The Browns trade for Deshaun Watson, and they trade away Mayfield to Carolina, where he ends up competing with fellow 2018 first-round pick Sam Darnold for the starting job, loses that job to P.J. Walker, and then gets released. And then the Rams claim him from waivers on a Tuesday, and then I think a Thursday night game, he leads. They're down 6, and he leads a 98-yard drive with a little over a minute left with no timeouts, and he learned the playbook 2 days ago. That's what's crazy to me. It's not like he just won the game because they got up early and then they just ran the ball. No, he's out there no huddle, looking to the sidelines with a guy he met 48 hours ago, and they're navigating this drive down the field. Like I said, the punt beforehand, ridiculous. The thing landed at the 20 and rolled to the 2 and went out of bounds. So a fantastic drive by him and a fantastic game. So I went back and watched that, and then signed a 1-year contract with the Bucks off of that. Kind of a Malik Willis. Was Baker Mayfield the Malik Willis before Malik Willis? Maybe. We can discuss that. Went 9-8, 4,000 passing yards, 28 touchdowns, 10 picks, and then signed the 3-year extension, which this is the final year of. Which I think we can have that conversation about. He's in his early 30s, drafted in 2018, like I said, so this is year 18. Yeah, year 8 or 9. I'm not going to try and do the math in my head. But he's in the final year of his 3-year extension that he signed with Tampa after that first season. Yeah, because this is year 4. So he's their quarterback for this year. Other things to look in free agency, other places to look. Mike Evans is a free agent. Hassan Reddick is a free agent. Jamel Dean is a free agent. Levante David is a free agent. And Cade Otton is a free agent. So they've got some big names. Some older guys. Hassan Reddick, I believe, is 32 or 33. He's up there. Mike Evans is in their early 30s. Jamel Dean and Levante David are both in their early 30s. And so I feel like this could be a situation where it's almost like a house made of cards, whereas if you can convince everyone to come back and try and put together a Super Bowl run, it works. But the minute one of those aging veterans leaves, well, then your attempt to win a Super Bowl becomes less likely, which means that other guys start to decide, I really want another ring, and I don't think I'm going to do it in Tampa Bay, and so they leave. And so I really think that you need to keep all of these pieces in place, especially Mike Evans, Jamel Dean, and Levante David. I feel like those are all huge pieces. Cade Otton is big. I know Jack's a big Cade Otton guy because of fantasy football. So I think that it's a big part. It's going to be big to keep all those pieces together, because I think if you lose a Jamel Dean or a Levante David, you just have to hope that you hit on the guys behind them, and you have to hope that you can convince everyone who you're trying to stick around for one more run, hey, the defense isn't going to fall apart, or Chris Godwin and Mika Igbokwe are going to be enough, even if we lose Mike Evans and Kate Otten. So that'll be something I look to see in free agency. I didn't write down how much cap space they have, so I'm not sure about that number. I think, JP, if you could pull it up, that'd be great. But I think that's going to be my big thing, is this team is kind of set up to win now, right? Not aging quarterback. He's still in his mid to early 30s, but experienced veteran quarterback, and then the rest of the roster has experience. There's not a lot of young guys outside of Igbokwe who are playing like big-time snaps, right? Vita Vea leads that dominant defensive line. You've got Jamel Dean and Levante David leading the linebacker room in the secondary. Those guys both have experience. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, experience. The running back room has some experience, but also running backs just tend to be younger guys outside of Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley, a couple others around the league. Running backs just tend to be younger as you replace them. I think that this is a team you need to keep the pieces together to make the win now moves and try and go after the Super Bowl. What are your thoughts about their free agency?
They got $24 million in cap space. I'd prioritize getting and keeping Baker's guys, and then I'd almost consider drafting a bunch of defensive guys and go younger there. I think you have cornerstones in Anton Winfield and Vita Vea. Defensively, if Levante David wants to play for cheap, go ahead. We'll bring him back. But I do think Baker continuing to have Mike Evans and Kate Otten are only going to help him. So I would prioritize those two re-signings, and maybe even like Sterling Shepard is a free agent guy you didn't mention. He's had a connection with Baker since Oklahoma, so those kind of guys to keep the familiarity of the offense with him when you're changing the offense coordinator every year. At least you're keeping the same personnel, and it allows Baker to continue to flourish offensively. They just got to stay healthier on the offensive line. That'd be where I'd prioritize my signings, then leading to the draft.
Yeah, I'm like, you talk about running it back, trying to bring as many of the guys back as possible. I guess I'm fine with that. I don't love it, and maybe it's just because of how the season ended. You know, just the slide, missing the playoffs, kind of shocking considering how they started the season. I know, like, injuries played a large part of that, but bringing back older guys, you're not necessarily helping your odds on the injury front. So I guess, though I wouldn't feel great about it, but like I'm fine to run it back for one more year.
What are your thoughts? And JP, this question might be more directed at you. Like I said, this is the final year of Baker Mayfield's contract, and I feel like oftentimes when guys are due up for extensions, you hear about it, and I haven't heard anything about it from Baker. If you're the Buccaneers, are you trying to tie him down in another like a 2 or 3 year extension and get him till he's 35, or are you playing it out this year and then see where it goes from there? If you don't do well in the division again, you decide, you know what, it's time for us to like kind of start a soft rebuild.
I'd keep him because he hasn't dealt with injury concerns himself necessarily while in Tampa Bay. Like, that's kept him out of games for a prolonged period. He's played through injuries. And I do think he is one of those quarterbacks that is so good cerebrally and so good upstairs in his head that with the talent that he does have, I do think he could play as long as he wanted to the point to where like Stafford is right now at 37. I do think he has that in him, and I don't think you get rid of that very, very easily because I don't think he thinks his career is anywhere close to being done. So then you're just going to have him walk and potentially go somewhere else and win and rub it in your face, which is what he's doing to Cleveland and has been doing to Cleveland. So I wouldn't personally want that. I think you continue to play him because for what it's worth, how is he not the best quarterback in the division for the next 3 years? Unless Tyler Shuck is great, which I don't think he is. I just think he's above or at league average.
You would have to get like the best possible Tyler Shuck development
Yeah.
for him to be better than Baker, most likely.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'd be fine keeping him around.
Yeah. I'm more than fine. I think that's the goal. I think I'm eager to keep him around. But we can talk about their draft because I was doing their draft and I just kind of fell into a hole and ended up doing 5 rounds instead of our usual 1 to 2 that we usually talk about. And you kind of hit the nail right on the head, JP. I loved what you said. Keep Baker's guys and draft defense. In the first round at 15, I'm looking either in the secondary or the edge room. A couple guys, names I have to throw out: Mansur Delane from LSU, and then Cassius Howell. And like I said, that's at pick 15. I can't remember if I said that. Yes, Gig'em, Cassius Howell. You fall into the second round, and then at 46, I'm looking at linebacker. And that's, I think, a good place to try and find the heir to Levante David if he decides to come back, or if not. But either way, Alabama, Deontay Lawson from Alabama.
Yeah, one of your guys.
Not one of my guys. Actively not one of my, I believe, actively avoided drafting a different Alabama guy for one of my teams just so that y'all wouldn't say that I'm an Alabama fan. So,
you could run from it all you want, but you can't escape it.
Another option is if they choose not to bring back Cade Otton, they get Eli Stowers. He's a guy that, yes, another A&M guy. I like him a lot. I know he's not your traditional tight end, but he's still a very dangerous weapon. So I would love to see them take Eli Stowers if they choose to let Cade Otton walk. I would still probably keep Otton and then spend that pick on defense. At pick 77, this is a pick that I really like, and this is a weird one. I actually want to show y'all this because it's JP, denied Dennis Sutton, correct?
Yeah.
Denied Dennis Sutton. If you look at his, I got to go find it, PFF, like, mock draft simulator data, you can see where he used to be mock drafted, and this is a terrible ratio for the screen, so I'm going to put it over here. You can see that, like, in, what is this, August? No, not even August, whatever, April.
May.
In April and May, he was, like, mock drafted in, like, between 25 and 30. And he has since fallen to being mock drafted in the mid-90s, upper 80s, mid-90s. So I think this is great value for a guy who's super talented and was a part of a really weird year at Penn State that ended up in getting their coach fired. So I really like this pick because he's a talented guy. He's part of that Penn State, edge U or D-line U, whatever you want to call it, with the guys they put in the league and Micah Parsons, and more recently, last year, the guy that the Giants drafted, Abdul Carter.
Mm-hmm. He's a physical freak, 6'5".
Yep.
260. He's lightning fast.
Yeah.
He's 100% a problem. So he is someone that can be productive immediately, more than likely, and that's something they need.
Yeah.
So.
I'm interested if he's a guy that, as we get away from games being played and we're back into just like, guys testing numbers and seeing guys at pro days and stuff, if he's someone that just kind of like climbs back up. Probably not, back into the first round, but then like, he's a mid-second round pick or like a late second round pick instead of, what you mentioned him in the 90s.
Yeah.
But
I could see that happening. I also wouldn't be I would be surprised, but I feel like we have guys who just kind of out of nowhere, the physical traits they have will put them in the first round.
Sure. Maybe
not from, like I said, the 90s, but we'll see. Other options at 116, so that's the 4th round. Bud Clark, a safety from TCU. Another backfilling, planning for the future is Antoine Winfield. How old is Antoine Winfield? Because I keep saying he's old, but I may have been
27 or 28.
Is he really old? Okay. I do apologize. I think I've been in my head. I had him around the same age as the other guys I was talking about, the linebacker and the cornerback. So maybe you get him to play across from Winfield then, because 27, 28, I think that Winfield could probably still play another 4 or 5 years at a high level. And then another guy, Josh Cuevas, tight end from Alabama. And like I said, that would be if you don't go Eli Stowers in the 2nd round. And then finally, in the 5th round, Pat Coogan, center from Indiana. I think Coogan has experience at the guard position as well at Notre Dame, where he played guard for Notre Dame 2 years ago, I believe. So he's got experience all over the internal offensive line, which is really good. That's a piece that, especially with an offensive line that's dealt with injury, you bring in a guy who can play 3 positions for the price of 1 pick. That's really big. And then another option I threw out there, Brennan Thompson, wide receiver from Mississippi State. Like I said, this is the 5th round, and he's way smaller than Emeka. He's not quite the route artist that Emeka is, but he is very fast. Was referred to as the fastest man in college football this year. We are also a state podcast, which is there's a cowbell there, and then
My hat.
Yeah, the hat you're wearing. Sign here, sign up there. So
JP's hat.
JP's hat. Yes, state. I felt like I had to look a little bit harder than I was expecting. But state podcast. So I wanted to shout out Brennan Thompson. I think that could be a good compliment. To go with Emeka Egbuka, and maybe you do keep Chris Godwin, but to bring in a big-time speed threat in Brennan Thompson.
He's a Saint. Sorry.
Well, we'll fight. May have to fight over him. How about what if y'all got Mike Evans and they took Brennan Thompson?
We don't need Mike Evans. We have too many young receivers in there.
Sure. I'm not gonna walk back through this whole draft.
That's fair.
But
That's
in terms
fair.
of first round, you laid it out well. But in terms of first round, I'd be fine with Mansour Delane. Cassius Howell just scares me. Like in the top half of
Somebody's got to
teams.
get drafted.
He does.
Somebody's got to go in the top 15.
But he just seems like someone that could be a star, but also just has pretty high bust potential. And so as a team that's trying to run it back for one more year, do I love, okay, maybe this guy's size concerns and this guy's, ability to hold up in the run game really comes to fruition and he struggles to be on the field for a year where it's like, man, if we just have one or two more pieces, then we're really ready to roll. So that scares me, but also you don't necessarily want to be the team that's drafting safe all the time in the first round. You really want to be drafting for talent.
Maybe they're a candidate to try and trade back if a team wants a wide receiver, and this is 15, so maybe this is a Denzel Boston area, or maybe Mekhi Lemon is if Mekhi Lemon falls 15 and some team in the 20s like Buffalo in the late 20s really wants Mekhi Lemon, they really want that wide receiver.
Sure.
They trade up, and then that puts you in territory for Akeem Mesidor from Miami, which Akeem Mesidor is he's the super safe old start day one NFL prospect.
Mm-hmm.
The downside of him is he's 25, right? So you're only going to get him at his prime for 4 years, as opposed to 2 to 3 years. Exactly.
You get him nice and cheap, and then hey, you're already 29 or whatever.
Yeah,
we can just let you trot out the door.
Yeah, he's the perfect guy for a team that's missing one piece and thinks that he could be that piece because he's very good. He is not the perfect guy for teams that I'll talk about in a little bit, like the Titans, or the Browns, right? Who feel like they need to add a lot of pieces. So I could see the Buccaneers maybe that doesn't work out, but that's the vibe of what they're going for, right? Is somebody who's gonna come in and make an impact and not be a 2 or 3 year developmental piece, like we kind of expected Abdul Carter to be, right? As highly drafted as he was going to be a guy that was he's going to come in after his junior year, and it's going to take a while to figure it all out. So,
Did we really think that though? I feel
Maybe
like he
not.
was the favorite to win Defensive Rookie of the Year.
But he didn't have that season, did he?
Well, I mean, part of it is
Not at all.
he did not, and part of it probably is because
Maybe I'm speaking in too much hindsight. I think I'm definitely using hindsight there, and I apologize.
I mean, maybe when we knew we went to the Giants and it was well, he's playing in a room where it's maybe hard to get pass rushing reps compared to some other.
I'm
guys
really
there.
glad that y'all have bad memories, because I just remembered a take I had where I said I thought he was going to be better than Micah Parsons. So, I just lied. I did not think that he was.
Well, I mean, from weeks 12 through 18, he had more production than Micah Parsons did.
True. I do apologize for the blatant lie I just told, if anyone goes back and finds that very old take. But all that to say, that's what I would do for the Buccaneers in the draft. Is JP said it best: re-sign Baker's guys and draft defense. And then if goals for 2026, because that's what this is an offseason primer talking about the offseason and then 2026. I have 2 goals. Then they are almost counter opposites. They kind of oppose each other. The first goal is win the NFC South. That's a big goal. You felt like you were in the driver's seat through the first half of the season, and then fell apart and collapsed down the stretch. And so now you need to go into this season and think we're healthy. We have the majority of our pieces back. We just need to get in the driver's seat and not collapse again. So that's the goal. And then the other goal is start to transition from an older roster. I'm going to list out some of the guys they've got. Levante David, 35. Mike Evans, 32. Sterling Shepard, 32. Hassan Reddick, 31. Vita Vea, 30. Jamel Dean, 29. Chris Godwin, 29. And especially for Dean and Godwin as a cornerback and a wide receiver at 29, that's a position where you're going to start to see like the drop off in production and ability to produce and physicality, just because it's a position that requires so much speed and athleticism, unlike maybe an offensive line where you can play into your mid-30s like an Andrew Whitworth did. It's just a lot harder to hang with younger guys because it's so speed dependent out there on those islands. So that's a big, I think, point for me is draft well to start to, even if you're able to bring back all those guys and who are free agents this offseason, you need to start finding the replacements for them, because after this contract, they aren't going to be able to, like, you're not going to bring them back for another contract in 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think when the NFC South is like a given, it's in terms of the three NFC South teams we've previewed today, they have the most, like, okay, you really got to, like, win the NFC South, and you really got to make playoff hay because of the age of the roster. And then ideally just the transition from an older roster happens naturally as you just draft well, right?
Yeah.
You know, you don't waste your picks. You know, you're not going to hit on every pick, but you hit on at least a high enough percentage of your third-round picks, your fourth-round picks to make it happen. So I'm fine with those goals.
Cool. JP, would you agree?
Yeah. It's more attainable than Carolina and Atlanta. I'll
Sure.
tell you that much. That's
Sure.
for sure.
Just had
Completely
to
agree.
throw the dig in there for Carolina and Atlanta. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Is it more attainable than New Orleans?
I don't know, because New Orleans is, I think, going to have a chance to have what the Patriots had this year, or the Broncos, and that fact that their schedule is going to be so damn weak that I do think New Orleans has a better chance to win more games than Tampa Bay. Not that they're necessarily better than
Sure.
them.
That's fair.
Head-to-head's going to be crucial there.
Yeah.